Morning, everybody. Just a few drawer pulls. Six or eight. Might even be able to do it without the compressor kicking on. Guess not. Morning, everybody. Chaos around here as usual. secret sauce. I do a lot of spurs, but when I'm not happy with the way the spur turns out, or my set of spurs doesn't necessarily turn out the way I want, turn them into artwork. So door knocker, custom spur, door knocker. We'll knock it better once it cools off. I know that's backwards, but yeah. And then, of course, the Weldings. Yeah. Oh. So I put that on hot. And polymerizes. That compressor will shut off in a minute. Sorry, everybody. Thanks for the likes. Appreciate it. I got a bunch of stuff I'm doing today. Most of yesterday got wasted. I had to go to Powell. All right. That done. Project getting done. Couple more coming. It's cold. I got the car parked in here because actually didn't get this cold last night. Only down to about -2. Oh, good. Busy. Cold. If you don't have one of these and you need to spray stuff, this works great. They got a Peterson valve in them, so you can pressurize them with the Peterson valve. These work fantastic. That compressor. Hola. Buenos dias. See? My morning coffee. I didn't even got up and went. I didn't even shave or nothing this morning. Greetings, everybody. Good morning. Good morning from Cody, very cold Cody, Wyoming. It might be above zero now here, Fahrenheit. Hence the reason I have the car parked in here, because it's a little cold outside, and the great thing about having a shop is I can park the runaround in here. Well, we'll use the second string one today. Go for it, but the other one out. I like these hammers. This is what we were forging this morning. Southern Southeast Texas. Well, I imagine it's warmer there than it is here in Cody. So we were working on these drawer pulls this morning. I just had a little order of them up, so I forged them up using the KA. Got one stuck nail. Just like that. Well, that lens went through. Doesn't hurt anything. A little extra. Yes, with those horseshoes, if you heat that shoe up when you cut those nails off, 80% of the time the nails will just pop out. Good morning, everybody. That, son. I'm just waiting for the guy to come pick it up. Elkhorn handles. I like to start the forge up first thing in the morning on these cold days like this. Thank you. I'm not a big stock removal guy. I ordered these patterned Damascus steel from a guy down in Alabama who does them. And And so I'm more of a forge guy. This is more my style. Here's an elk. That's elk. Yeah, horseshoeing rasp. And that's more of that Damascus. I'm going to try to I'm not really satisfied with the way that etching turned out on those, so I'm going to try to re-etch those. It's a little more challenging once you've got the knives made, but I'm going to try to bring out the pattern a little more. But that elkhorn turned out pretty nice. A little finial in there. This one's Osage. Yeah, I don't really like working with it. I'm more of a forging guy. Gracias, amigo. Here's a couple I got to finish up this week. I like doing spurs. Yeah, I've done ball peen. I've done quite a few ball peen hammer ones. That's nice because you don't have to worry about your eye being straight. You already got the eye drifted in, so. The other spur, I wasn't happy with the other spur when I did the set. So instead of wasting them, I'm never doing the same thing twice. I'm always doing. So there's a little trick to that. So if you're building I learned this years and years ago. So if you're drifting and you have a hard time keeping your hole straight, a lot of times what I'll do is I'll take a couple of a little tiny drill bit like a like a 1/8 inch drill bit or something, maybe just a little bigger, and I'll drill 2 holes right where my splitter goes. And when you drift that, you don't remove any much material, but it helps you keep your drift straight. Not such a big deal on something that's thin like this, but when you get something that's a little thicker, It works really good to help keep that. It helps keep your drift running down through the center of your material. And I learned that from an old blacksmith years ago. It's worth that extra 2 minutes at the drill press to drill those 2 holes down through there to help keep your punch straight. I've modified the tail end of that anvil so I can do a softer radius on there. Yeah. I still punch a lot of holes, like with a hot punch. I've got this tool over here that makes that fairly easy. But if you're going to be doing production work, you almost have to have a drill press. When you're doing hundreds of these drill pulls like this, you almost got to have a drill press to do it, to drill these holes for the drill pulls. And of course, on all these hooks, hundreds of these hooks, you can punch them, but if you're trying to get consistency, the easiest way to do that is with drill press. And you don't have to have an expensive one. A little bench top one from Harbor Freight works just fine for doing that, as long as you got good sharp drill bits. I did a handle on this knife the other day and I wasn't satisfied with it, so this week I'm going to have to try to. I knocked the handle off, and it was a good test for the new glue I'm using. You can see the glue I'm using works really good. Boy, that's one thing about using a rasp. You've got lots of surface area to get that glue to stick. And I don't use epoxy on my knives. I use glue. Generally, I use like a Gorilla Glue. This was a different kind of a glue that I'm trying. And you can see that it works good because, boy, I'm going to have to take it back to the grinder and grind all that old horn off of there. So that's my preform for those. I've modified that anvil a little bit to get that nice soft in there. I do so many of these that it was worth modifying my anvil to do that. Most guys, you go to grinding on the face of an animal and they freak out. And then here's two of the next tools that I'll be using in this next process. Thanks for the likes, everybody. I appreciate it. Thanks for coming in. I would generally be doing a whole bunch of these at one time, but we had about 2 feet of snow and all my horseshoes are stacked under the eave on this building, and they've got this much snow stacked on top of them, so I'm going to have to get out and get the shovel out before I get any more horseshoes out of the pile. So, yeah. All right, well, we'll do this other process here. I'll tip you over here so you can see my treadle hammer. That's the next process. So I got to do 80 of these. I'm rolling up on half done for one order. So a lot of this stuff is not one of a kind arty stuff. There's a little art in it, but it's really I'm doing production blacksmithing. Or something close to it. So I'm using a rounding turning hammer. So see how it's got one flat face and one round face? So I'm using that round face on this side, or the flat face on this side of that hammer when I do that, to keep that straight. And then I use the round piece in here to get his cheek forged out. Morning, everybody. Welcome to Cody Iron Works, Blacksmith in Real Life. I try to do it every morning. If life don't get in the way, I try to come on every morning for one of these. Got one stuck nail. Because they're going to be hanging on the wall, I got to make sure that they're flat. Morning, everybody. Thanks for coming in. Thanks for the likes. I appreciate it. So that's the back plate done. In a little bit, as soon as I get these done, I'm going to weld them up and I'll show you how I do that. So, okay, let's do the other one. So there, I just punched his nose with my special little tool. Now I'll do his mouth and his ears. Doing used shoes is always challenging because they don't bend the same. So now we got to do the eyes and then we'll have it. So if anybody's got any questions or anything, this is 36 years for me doing this. It's all I do. It's my real life. It's what I do every day. It's how I make a living. And it's at least 2 hours a day standing here, 2 or 3 hours a day standing here in front of this forge to create all the stuff. And I do a myriad of stuff. Here's the gun racks, the vertical gun racks that I do. My happy little steer faces. Wall hooks. And here's the other horse faces. So he's not really three-dimensional, almost three-dimensional, right? But I do three-dimensional ones. So here's a three-dimensional one. Little horse face. Thank you. But I do all kinds of stuff. So of course you can't buy any of these tools downtown. You got to make them. So these are this is one of the eye punches, and I have many. This is one of the eye punches I do. And of course you use different punches for different animals. I had to weld up a little porosity on this one, so he's got a little. I'll have to get in there with the files and the die grinder and fix his ears, or fix his base of his ears. But and then I do some heavy forging too. These are what they call a fencing dog. They're made for stretching wire, particularly barbed wire. That's all forged out of one piece of steel. And if you want to see how close you can get to forgings, open die forgings, I didn't do, these were all hand done. No measuring. So like I said, I've been trying to do, you do them until you get sick of them. So I've been doing like 8 or 10 of these a day to get to the 80. But we've had a bunch of weather and had some family stuff. There was 4 days I couldn't even get out of this blacksmith shop. We had so much snow. Couldn't even get out of here. We had 18 inches of snow and then it dropped below zero. And we haven't had much wind, which is pretty weird for Cody. But last night, boy, that wind howled last night. Ooh, terrible. Terrible. So. Questions, anybody? I'm trying to do some different kinds of railroad spike. I'm trying to come up with an easier way to do these because a lot of my business is tourists in the summertime. And so I'm always trying to come up with some simple thing I can do for the tourists. And of course, the railroad spikes, they're ubiquitous. Everybody does them. And so you kind of do what sells when you're making a living at it. So the next thing is Easter, right? So the other day I was doing hand forged nails, big hand forged nails. And then I'll do a few of these up for Easter. That's a pretty simple project that beginner guys, well, I say it's simple, but you have to be able to make a nail header. And so it takes a little bit of blacksmith skill in order to do your nail header good enough to do a good nail. A lot of guys will say the first thing you ought to do is learn how to do leaves. But again, it requires a few tools more than just a hammer and an anvil to do those. You've got to be able to make yourself a chisel. And I always tell everybody, don't mess around blacksmithing until you make a few tools, until you learn how to make some tools up first. So I might put these on the Etsy store today. I got enough to do. I think I got enough to do a couple of more. I might be able to do 6 of these crosses. So, and that's all just leftover little pieces of leftover material. So nothing goes to waste around here. Everything gets used. So. Of course, everybody does the horseshoe knives and the railroad spike knives. I always try to forge to finish, so that's how the forging ends when I get done with it. That's it. And then I'll grind those out to make knives out of them. And then as your forging improves, you can do a little more complicated stuff. Well, let's see, that's 2 years, that's 7 years. So yeah, you should have a pretty good handle on it. But like I said, I'm a general blacksmith. I do a little bit of everything. I do knives. I do tomahawks. But I also do bigger stuff too. I'm pretty proud of that. That turned out pretty nice. to do something like that, you've got to do the eye drift tools. It requires a couple of specialty tools to do the eyes on those bigger ones like that. So, and that's one solid piece of truck spring. I forged that out of a piece of truck spring. So I'm pretty proud of that one. All right, well, I'm out of horseshoes to forge this morning, so now comes welding. Hence the stupid hat this morning. Got to wear my welding hat for doing the welding this morning. And I guess I can show you that a little bit. I'll show you my welding. I'll show you my welding setup. It's not nearly as glamorous. Well, it's the blacksmithing in real life, right? You got to do everything. So here's my welding station with my vent so I don't have to breathe that garbage. And there is a bucket of those. I think there's about, I haven't counted them up, there's at least 30 of them in there. Yeah, I do a lot of wall hooks. I don't do too many hinges. There's a lot of work in those. I should have gone and got more welding rod down to the end of it. I was over in Pal yesterday. I don't know why I didn't stop and get some. Damn it. So that's how they get done. And then I'll have to put the bends in them for the hat racks. These are hat racks to hang cowboy hats on. I got a big order. I got a big order from a guy down in Florida. To a tune of 80 of these. Generally, I'll burn right through that slag, but once you start and you stop, then you can't hardly do that. My little fan thing here works pretty good. It gets rid of most of that smoke, so I don't have to breathe it. Keeps it out of the shop. There, that's the weld I'm looking for. If I do this right, they'll almost look like it almost looks like a TIG weld. If I do this just right. And of course, none of them are the same because every horseshoe is wore different. So you're kind of going on the fly here. Of course, you're bound to get some porosity because you're welding through old used horseshoes. But the good thing about this 7014 rod is if you know how to run it, you can go back in there and float that porosity out if you know what you're doing. And I have done thousands of these. Thousands. Like I said, generally I would just go through them and then I'd come back and clean up the welds. But for the sake of my live stream this morning, I'm going to do it this way. First thing I'm going to have to do this morning is go dig out some more horseshoes and go get some more of this material. Thanks for the likes, everybody. I really, really appreciate it. All helps. My stuff gets seen more. You got to let that cool just a little bit, or else it'll start up your weld. See, and I'm having some of these horseshoes got a lot of toe on them still. The building is only half of these because I still got to do the cleanup, knock all the splatter off, bend them, put the coating on them. And then I got to drill them for the mounting hole still. Pretty good, actually. Sometimes I amaze myself. How's everybody doing? Thanks for the likes. I know this is the part of the blacksmithing that is not this is not the sexy part of this deal. This is the everyday minutia part of this. A lot of guys are posting their blacksmithing content on all over social media, but they never show you the actual work part of this. These are a fantastic tool. I don't even know if they still make these anymore. There's 10 of them. All right. Anybody got any questions? Let those cool off. And I'll let them cool off in front of that fan. It kind of helps get that air out of there. We'll let them cool off and I'll finish them up. But now that the sun's up a little bit, I'm going to have to go shovel some snow and go find some material outside, which I'm not looking forward to too much. Questions, comments? Happy little door knockers? This will be put on the Etsy store today, I think. That'll look real good hanging on the door like that. All right, everybody, have a great day. We'll see you tomorrow. If you like the content, slip over to the Cody Iron Works Etsy store and share some love. You don't have to buy nothing, just go over and like some stuff. That'd be great. And we'll see what happens. Maybe I'll come back later because I got a ton of forging I got to do today. So I might be back later, so you might want to subscribe. And yeah, thanks, everybody.